Well, you've heard the reaction in the room when the Golden Era Committee announced that nobody had made it into the Hall of Fame for induction next summer. Now, longtime executive Pat Gillick serves on the Golden Era Committee. Meredith had a chance to talk to him and get his reaction.
Disappointed, not really surprised. We had 10 fantastic candidates, and they were very, very close together. And I thought there was a possibility that they weren't going to reach the 12, the 3/4, 75% level because we had such wonderful candidates.
When you look at some guys very close with 11 votes, what do you think needs to happen to kind of sway the opinion another way and perhaps give them a chance next year?
I really can't say. I think the process that we went through and the discussions we had were very healthy. They were very professional. There was a lot of passion involved in the conversations. So from the committee standpoint, I think they did a very, very thorough job in this process. It's just unfortunate, as I said, that the two candidates fell one vote short.
It's such a big decision and a huge honor at that. What is that process like as you're debating who gets in and who gets in?
It's very candid, and that's all I can say, and very healthy. But it's a discussion that I think each and every person that if they had the opportunity to listen in, I think they would think the same thing, that we're trying to do the very, very best we can for every candidate and give them their due in front of the other committee members.
One has to think that there is some major disappointment among several baseball families, including those of Tony Oliva, Dick Allen, and Jim Cott. Oliva and Allen, as mentioned, coming up one vote shy, Jim Cott two, and boy, that's just got to be tough going for those guys, knowing that they were that close but didn't get in.
Right, Bob, as you heard Jane Forbes Clark make that announcement, and I was in the room at the time, and you heard some audible gasps when she said 11 votes for Oliva and Dick Allen to fall one vote short. That's very painful. I agree with Pat Gillick. I'm sure that they had a great debate about it. But my problem with this, as I look at this committee, is there are certain people, and each committee member can vote for up to 4 people, but there are certain people who gave their vote to someone who finished down near the bottom. You heard Jane Forbes Clark mention it. Why not go to a second round? Why not take those guys off the ballot? Maybe now have the top 6 finishers and go to a second round of voting. I think you do that, and then you might get a different result. You might get someone who felt, well, I wasted my vote on this guy, I'm going to give it to an Oliva or something like that, and you might have a candidate today.
That's a little akin to what they do in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I believe, right, Tyler? The fact that they kind of winnow down a few rounds and get it down to some finalists.
Yeah, from what I understand. I've never really understood why, either in the writer's ballot or this ballot, why you're limited to 4, or in the writer's case 10. If you think a guy's a Hall of Famer, yes or no on each guy. Just to make it that simple. It's tough. It's sad when a guy falls one vote short. You could bring a lot of happiness to that person, to his family, and the team, and all that stuff. But I got to tell you, though, I do like the Veterans Committee, the makeup of it, the fact that these are guys who were, rightly or wrongly, passed over by the writers for their, in that time, 15 years on the ballot. So it's a second chance for them, and it's supposed to be rigorous. And I like the fact that that electorate is made up of half Hall of Famers. It is their club, and we as the writers have already passed on these guys, and if they want to let these guys into their club, them and the other 8 people, 75% need to agree. I think it should be a hard standard, and I think the Hall of Famers do deserve their say. I just wish they could vote for whoever they wanted to rather than a sort of artificial number of 4.
Yeah, and look, it's supposed to be hard to get in. I mean, that's sort of the point of all of this. And I'm someone, for whatever reason, I've never gotten overly worked up about whether a guy's in or out. I think the process, though, is interesting. I mean, the discussion is always worthwhile, and that's whether these guys, the guys who come close, we end up talking about them, and it's a chance to sort of reevaluate and rethink about their careers, whether they're in the Hall of Fame or not. I think the fact that their name gets in the conversation a little bit more. I think of all the time Fred McGriff being on this ballot. I felt like I watched a lot of his career, and not that I think he's a Hall of Famer, but he was a lot better than I realized he was. And same with we've had Tim Raines. I think we've come to have a better appreciation of his career. The conversation itself, I think, is a lot of times worthwhile. These guys want to get in, but for us, just as baseball fans and observers, just the conversation itself, I think, is a good thing. It's a good thing for their careers and a good way to remember them.
Yeah, and let's enjoy debates like this too that are purely about baseball when it comes to the Hall of Fame. We're not talking about what did Tony Oliva use and when when was Dick Allen on. I mean, we're debating their baseball merits, and although nobody got in, it is a fun debate, and it is fun to go back and look at those numbers to see just how good these guys were. Jim Cott, what an amazing pitcher. And not all these guys had real careers to be proud of. Bob Howsam, too, building the Big Red Machine as he did. But I do like the fact, I really believe in the integrity of the Veterans Committee, because those are 16 experts from various disciplines: a GM, writers, owner, executive, and existing Hall of Famers. I think it's a very, what those guys say, I trust that process.
I just look at it as, I think if you're one of those guys who voted for somebody who only ended up with 3 or 4 votes, I would feel as if I wasted my vote. And if I heard somebody else got 11, and if I had said he wasn't a Hall of Famer and I knew he was at 11, I know me, honestly, I think I would have given the guy the vote. I wouldn't want to be the one guy who stood in the way of getting somebody into the Hall. And if you think this stuff doesn't matter, Jerry Reinsdorf, who has a bunch of NBA title rings and a World Series ring, stood in that room and lamented that Minnie Minoso did not get in. And you could hear the pain in his voice, how difficult it was for him to have to accept that news.